Okay, today my guest is Professor Chuck Kwok. I will keep my introduction short to maximize our time with him. In the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about Chuck as a person, Professor Kwok as a thought leader and an esteemed scholar, and finally as a mentor to many PhD students and junior faculty. For the sake of time, I'll skip many of his accomplishments and give you a very quick snapshot. Professor Kwok is an AIB fellow. He has served AIB at various positions, including Vice President of Administration. In addition to AIB, he has been consistently serving on conference program committees of various academic associations, such as the Financial Management Association, the Academy of Management, and the Decision Sciences Institute. He sits on many journals' editorial boards, and Professor Kwok has published more than 50 journal articles, 5 books, and monographs. He is ranked among JIBS's the most prolific scholars list. In addition to many research awards, he received the prestigious Moskowitz Prize from the Center for Responsible Research at UC Berkeley. Thank you, Chuck, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for your nice introduction.
Chuck, first question always is, what did you want to become when you were a child?
When I was a child, because you know that parents usually have good influence of you. So my mother wanted me to be a doctor, physician. The reason is that she had a constant headache, chronic headache. So she wanted me to be a doctor to cure her. So under her influence, I want to be a doctor. But later on, I find that actually I'm not have the ingredients to be a doctor. I like social science more than physical science. So even in the high school later on, I already find out that I should not be a doctor.
Chuck, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, and then in high school, I already gave up the idea of being a doctor. But I started learning like about social science, about human behavior. So I want to be a policymaker instead, because I see that, especially in the context of Hong Kong, we want to improve the status of the citizens' well-being. That's why, okay, the way to do it, the quickest way, a meaningful, impactful way, is to be a policymaker. So I gear myself toward that, try to study social science, human behavior. Hopefully in future, I'll be good policymakers, put out good policies to benefit society. So I switched very early on from being a doctor into something like a politician. But later on, I also switched into intellectual. That's a later story.
Chuck, can you remember the first moment of awareness between foreign versus domestic?
That's very easy to answer your question, because Hong Kong, as a cosmopolitan city, where we have to be foreign and international in order to survive. Now, as a child, I tell you, it's interesting why I get imposed as foreign, because I like watching TV. In the TV programs, most of them actually foreign imported, either from America, from UK, or from Japan. So a lot of these TV programs are dubbed into the local language. So in very long time, because I like watching TV, a lot of shows, I was exposed to culture and all this language already, very early on, because I love watching TV.
Interesting. How did you choose the scholarship portion of IB? How did you choose the field?
Okay, so that's why it's a continuation of my early story from a doctor to a policymaker, now to be intellectual IB scholar. So let me give a little bit background. Now, I always geared toward to be a policymaker because of my ideal. And in Hong Kong, at that time, because it was still a British colony, in order to achieve, you apply for a government position called Administrative Officer, AO. It's very prestigious, okay? Then it's also real power, because a lot of government officials are appointed instead of being elected. So I strive for that. Unfortunately, during the last round, I get rejected. I have very good academic record, but we also, after one interview and another, it seems to be I all in up to that, and then suddenly they reject me at the last round. And then I have no choice. Then I have to switch. Being policymakers doesn't work, so I switched them to be intellectuals. And later on, people tell me that actually, Chuck, you're actually not suitable for being a politician. Politics is more complicated. It's not so realistic. There's a lot of trick a lot of skills, manipulation behind the scene. Your personality is too simple. You actually are not good at a politician. Oh, I know that. so I switched with the intellectual, try to study knowledge, creative ideas, form the policies, so as to educate future political leaders and business leaders. So indirectly, it's a way to fulfill my dream. It's not me doing that, but hopefully the people I train will do that. The knowledge I create will help them.
It was actually a compliment when someone says you're too simple, you can't be a politician. It's a good compliment.
Hope so.
Okay, something that is not on your CV that not many people would know about you.
Besides a full-time faculty member, I also help my students in another capacity. I'm a Christian by my religion. I'm a Christian. So other than working full-time at office in administrations, research, and teaching, every Friday night, I'm the faculty advisor of a university student organization called Chinese Christian Fellowship, whereby I serve as a faculty advisor. So we study Bible every Friday evening. We have a group of people. My wife cook for them. I serve them. They come together. And after a nice dinner, they share Bible together. Because I want to have a full, whole range of development. I want to train them how to think intellectually, be very learned. At the same time, a good goal of life. How do they maximize life, not only for own sake, but also for other people? So I emphasize a lot on this also all-round development. So in my office time, I do that in training people to do research and teaching knowledge. On the other hand, we also share deeply about values. What's the values of being a human being and how do you live a meaningful life? And that's not on my vita. I serve as a faculty advisor for a student organization, which is a Chinese Christian Fellowship.
Interesting. If you stop doing what you're doing today, what would be your second best alternative career path?
That's related to the earlier question I have, because I believe in valued human value. What is a meaningful life? I think meaningful life is a balanced life. You don't have just like a scholar. You don't have a teacher. You also your husband, your father, and all the Christians I serve in the church. So all around, I emphasize quite a bit about balanced life. I basically work very diligently in office from early on up to 5:30. But when I get home, I don't usually work. I do not go back to office. I don't carry back work. I enjoy my family life. I do my family life, and over weekend I talk to you. I guide students to do Bible study and also serve my church. So all through my life, I try to strike a balanced life. Luckily, I still a pretty good and professional way. But at the same time, I also enjoy because I believe that as a happy human being, you need to have balanced life. And so when I start reducing my professional work, then I'll shift more time to my family and to my church ministries. So it's just an allocation of time. So that's, if you ask me, if I quit or not doing this, what I will do that, then I'll put more time to my family and also more time to serve the church.
Interesting. Regrets, have you got any?
Regrets. The regrets of my career is that in the early part, I teach in South Carolina, University of South Carolina, which is ranked very high in international business. As a result, it comes with a lot of pressure to publish. You all know that, we all in this field know that publish or perish, right? So we have to justify our existence. That's why with the 6 years of tenure clock, we have to justify. So early on, I'm too nervous. So I just grab whatever opportunity I have to publish. What I call later on opportunistic approach of doing research. I grab someone, oh, you're good at that, let's co-author. And here I have a methodology, let's crank out some paper. And you are good at that, let's work together. So I try to pull a lot of people together, but actually I do not identify myself. Who am I? What is good I am? What is the area that I want to claim my expertise? I spread myself too thin, just want to get an item on my resume to justify my tenure promotion application. So, but later on regret. In the short term, you get a lot of items, but people know that you're no good. You spread yourself, you're actually no good. You're just using other people's ability to help you. You're not developing your own talents, your area of expertise, and you do not have depth, whether in terms of teaching or research. You don't help create creativity territory to carve it out. So you do not have depth. But happily, I learn from my colleagues. I have co-authors, and gradually with the collaboration, it shapes me. So in the latter part of my career, I narrow, focus on areas that I feel have passion on, I'm good at, and dig deep into that. So my big mistake is that I waste the first few years to be an opportunistic researcher.
What did you learn from your biggest mistake?
The bigger mistakes, as I just mentioned to you, is that if I can correct that, I want to choose 2 or 3 areas and dig deep into the literature and then learn very much well and then create one idea related to another so as to create my area of expertise. So this is the big mistakes I have, and I try to correct that.
What are you most proud of?
The most power of, as I mentioned earlier, is to provide all-round education. I like to teach. Besides teaching, I love teaching. I like dialogue. I have debate with ideas because I want to convey my thoughts to the next generation to train their business leaders and political leaders to make good policies. But I have emphasized, because of my belief, that you need to have balanced life. You don't just have good in your brain. You also need to good in your head. That's why I'm pretty proud of emphasizing all-round development, whether in my own self as my balanced life, and also to my students. That's why I guide them to have a Bible study. So that is something that I'm proud of. Again, 2 words: balanced life.
Very consistent. Actually, you're very consistent in your thinking. I mean, it comes out that way. Okay, let's switch to research.
Yes.
How do you explain your research to people who don't read your work regularly?
Okay.
And why is it important? How do you explain the importance of your work to them?
Yeah, especially for people who do not know business very well. So I have several streams of research that I think making contribution to the academy. For example, I do the last 3 major surveys of international curriculum, globalization of international business curriculum. I last all 3 surveys. And then I also do international financial research. That's my major field, especially in the area of risk, how internationalization reduce risk, change the capital structure. But the most recent stream of thought I have is culture and finance. Because in our department in South Carolina, we have the luxury of a separate international business department where we emphasize our interdisciplinary study. We have marketing people, management people, accounting people, finance people work together. So we actually usually talk in the hallway, okay, and we have seminars together, and I can hear about ideas from other fields. And then I see that national culture is very important for marketing and management area. And then, but you know, culture is being frowned on by finance people because they think it's too vague. But under our department, we emphasize on interdisciplinary research. I say, okay, how about let me borrow the national culture and examine financial behavior, which is actually very odd because a lot of finance people frown on culture. They say, what is culture? Too vague. But I tried it. But when I try to enter national culture into my regression, I find the R square is high. And at that time, it's called LLSV. They talk about legal protections, how legal system affect maybe dividend policy, capital structure. But after putting here, I add culture, my R square additional is much higher. I say, there is something there. Knowledge is not silo. It's not just finance for finance. It's actually we live in the holistic world. So from then on, I keep adding national culture to look at different area. So culture is just value system. It affects your mental programming. It affects how you buy stuff, how do you manage your leadership organization. But I can say that it also affects how investors invest, whether you're risk averse or not, or you follow the leader, a political behavior, or individualistic, or collectivistics. So I start improving the national culture, especially Hofstede's measures, to look at a whole spectrum of financial phenomena. For example, in the big side, macro side, we talk about how culture shape the choice of exchange rate system, the regime. How culture shape the financial system, whether you're a banking system or maybe a stock market system. And then at the second level, how culture shapes corporate behavior, investment decision, capital structure, okay, and then dividend policy, and then individuals. How do an individual do speculation? How do I create a portfolio? So I try to look at different layers. I co-author with co-authors and also my doctoral student, and have a whole spectrum. And I'm lucky, most of these papers appear in our top journal, JIBS. It's become a very constant stream of people. I'm also very proud that I was one of the pioneers to try to integrate this. The reason is that I have the luxury of being located in an interdisciplinary department. We have a separate IB department where formally and informally, we are encouraged to do that. So I'm forced to bring management concept into finance, and it seems to be successful. So this is one thing that I'm proud of.
Chuck, I mean, you touched on a couple of items, so I need to combine a couple of questions together. AIB is a big family, right? We've got marketing people, we've got OBHR people, more micro perspective people. There's strategy people, finance people,
yes.
econ trained, sociology trained, anthropology trained, or focused people. What is the next 5 to 10 years of the field? If a PhD student comes to you and asks for advice on not about the career, but about a paper or the dissertation topic, and he is asking or she is asking for a what's the next big question in the field? What are some
very quickly, if I as a doctoral student, but I tell him that this is potential a gold mine, but it's very tough. It's actually very real. I don't know whether you watch a documentary about AI. There's a documentary about AI, about age of AI. Whether you like it or not, AI is with us. The AI, the artificial intelligence, is going to change the world fundamentally. And academic, it is really impacting a lot of theories we thought is right. Actually, in future, it will be not valid anymore because AI is just questioning, disrupting a lot of traditional thinking. Let me give you an idea. Finance. In finance, in my field, we talk about investment behavior, right? How do you choose portfolio? How do you pick stocks? You have a lot of fundamentals. You choose this and choose a good stock. Nowadays, how to pick stock? AI. What is AI? They use machine learning. I was one time I had a chance to talk to one friend of mine who belonged to my student fellowship. He actually studied not my field, but in engineering, computer engineering. I said, hey, what's your dissertation about? Oh, dissertation about AI. It's about face recognition. So face recognition. So you try to look at some of the features, try to predict. No, Dr. Kwok, he said. Our experiment is very simple. We just have a lot of faces and show the computer and say that this is the outcome. And we actually get the outcome, but we actually do not know what's going on. I was surprised and I was shocked. You don't know what your dog's talking about? You don't know what you're studying? You don't know the variables? No, we don't. It just works. I say, oh, it's very dangerous. Nowadays, in future, a lot of things, the outcome-based, the machine know that, then you just do it. Now investment, market, stock market, a lot of people use data mining. We don't know what's going on. We just look at the stock price in the past. A lot of they makes work. Let's follow the equation. I don't know what's going on. That will throw a lot of theories into question. I wrote a commentary about AI. It said there'll be 50% of the jobs going to replace by AI. Fundamentally, it's going to create a lot of polarization, instability to society. Yes, top people will benefit a lot. However, a lot of people who lose jobs, then they have trouble in maintaining their livelihood. then they will not be happy. Then the populism, voting, and then they riot because they do not share the benefits. And we can't blame them because their livelihood is being jeopardized. So we scholars have to deal with that, whether you like it or not, because it's not just an intellectual exercise. If you do not do a good job, we are to blame. And then, so a lot of theories we talk about traditionally, I talk about fundamental variables, is being challenged by AI. So I think this is a big challenge. Its challenge is not just intellectual level, and also the future of society. How do you create a stable society? We can share the wealth with many people, not just some elite groups. So that is the, I think, for sure. One, I don't say it's the only challenge, but it's the big, big challenge to we as scholars, especially ICIB scholars.
Interesting. There are a couple of papers that were actually presented in conferences, Academy of Management, SMS, and AIB. And these AI papers or machine learning papers are mostly about methods, right? They are just basically emphasizing the method. There is no theory, there is no question.
No theory.
Well, the approach is not right at the moment. But clearly going forward, it needs to catch up. People need to realize the impact of this new technique on the questions or how it impacts theory. Could you give me one example how AI or machine learning is going to impact one of our theories? Okay,
as I mentioned to you already, using my own field of study, for example, we talk about asset pricing. How do you assess, one of the class I teach is called global cost variation, investment variation. That is how you price stock. And we use different approach. We use the discount cash flow approach. You look at the variables, timeline, discount that. The other is called so-called weighted valuation approach using price earning ratio, price book value ratio. The third one is called real option approach. So each of them, we identify variables to try to predict good buy, not so good buy, you should undervalued or buy undervalued stock and sell overvalued stock. In future, that's not the case because the model beats you and you don't know why. I mentioned all these models, but later on when I projected, the machine said, hey, I'm better than you. I think you already watched, I think there's a television documentary talk about a Korean guy who's very good in the chess game. And then Google sent a computer to the chess game with him, and Google beat him 4 times, 5 times, I mean 4 times. And that champion, world champion, just surrender. And the reason is that suddenly the machine gave a one move. He had never thought about that could be the move. He was caught by surprise. The same thing. We are so confident talking about all these theories. Oh, I have better models than you. But if something comes and says, my prediction is much better than you, and I can beat the market, then you say, what's going on? So we have to think a lot of things. So whether it's going to challenge us, whether the variables you identify are true variables, or in future it will be changed. At the same time, also the consequence that it creates a very unstable, polarized society. And how do you live in this society so that everybody will benefit in the long term? This is already changing now. Whether you like it, it's changing now. Automatic driving, truck driving is now automatic. In other words, replace a lot of truck drivers. They don't know that. Okay, grocery shopping is also being driven. They pick the grocery for you and ship it. So according to one book, 50% of our job will be replaced by AI. So this is a big challenge to international business, global business.
Interesting. Something to think about.
Yeah, it's
okay.
scary. It's scary. So, so a lot of people suffer. We scholars who have the privilege of time to think, you better think. Otherwise, even your job will be taken. Or you'll be killed. There'll be riots.
Okay, Chuck. Now let's switch gears to advice and mentoring portion.
Yes.
What was the best advice you received when you were going through the program yourself?
Which program are you referring to?
PhD program.
Our PhD program. I have a very good professor. I studied my doctoral program in Texas, Austin. He actually is very good for me. At the same time, he cared not just for my study, he also cared for me as a person. He liked to invite me into his home, have barbecue. He tell me this and that and that. He's also a practitioner. So he also very early tell me that you have to do relevant research. Don't just create knowledge of ivory tower. And I also met my personality also. I like to do knowledge that really benefits society. So that's why it's a good piece of knowledge that I all keep passing on to my students. When I teach my doctoral students, I said, don't just stay in the ivory tower. That's why for every class, for the first 5 minutes, I talk about current events. I talk about current events, pull Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, and talk about what's current event, and then ask them, you now as the researcher, or you're the manager, what's the implication to you? Challenge them to think. Challenge to think about. So not always just buried in ivory tower, just create ideas, just get a piece of publication. It's not very meaningful, and you are not passionate about it either because you just make a living. You are not passionate about that. So I said several things when I teach. Current events is very important. Respect the literature, very important, because people already invent. Don't reinvent the wheel. So look at the internet. And also the third word, based on my sociological training while I was in bachelor degree, we call sympathetic understanding. Sympathetic understanding. In other words, using Einstein's words, some type of mental experiment. So when you see something happening in reality, in outside, try to imagine you are the person in this situation. How would you react? And pull the knowledge you have in the literature, how you react. But this is not a literature predict, then there's anomalous, then study that. That will create, that anomalous actually create new ideas. Why? My theory cannot explain that. But that is the thing, it's about life. This is real people. So I try to have sympathetic understanding. If I am in that position, how should I react? And it turned out to be not the case, then I have to come back and revisit. That give me a lot of good ideas. Ideas or knowledge excite me, is relevant. Since it's relevant, it's passionate. It drives me because it's not just work to get tenure, to just get a very prestigious position being cited. You think that you're proud of yourself, do something meaningful.
Sure. Let's combine again a couple of questions. What are the major mistakes that you see PhD students or junior faculty do, other than the ones we already covered? For example, we said
but then there we talk about
opportunistic publication,
opportunistic research. Okay. The second thing, let me Professor Erica, let me just tell you analogy. I also, when I think about this analogy, I first beg the pardon for my doctoral student. So I first say that, so please pardon me when I say something to you. I asked my doctor, so please pardon me. I said, I tell you, you are people like roaches. Yes, they just say, what do you treat me as roaches? I said, I already asked for a pardon, so please listen to me. Why I say you're roaches? Because I seldom see you in office in the daytime, but you crawl out in the nighttime. In the office, nobody there. The doctors are usually hide themselves. And at the nighttime, they come out, work there. And the early hours, they disappear, just like roaches. I said, I don't think it's good. Don't be roaches. We human beings are created. We have so-called circadian rhythm. You have to work according to your clock. You have a biological clock, physiological clock. In the daytime, this is the ways most uplifted. Your spirit, your energy, the sunshine, the light, you are uplifted. But you waste the time sleeping. You just think, oh, it's quiet in the evening, nobody. But you're working against your clock. Over time, it hurts yourself, your morale, your spirit, and your health. That's why my warning to my students, back to my earlier say, balanced life. All right, you have to strive hard. At the same time, live according to the circadian rhythm. Daytime work, rise early in the morning, work hard. Nighttime, go home, don't touch work anymore. Enjoy your life, rest early, The next morning, go again. Now, your working hours may be smaller, shorter than other people, but I tell you, you'll be more productive. You'll be more productive. At the same time, your spirit is uplifted and you feel happy about your life. When people are happy, they have happy family, that becomes a drivers. And they are passionate, happy, and they have all the support. They will succeed in the long term. So my big warning to my doctor students is, don't be roaches. So that's why after I explained to them, I said, okay, I got it. So I'm not trying to be sarcastic, blame them, but just that I was just using very vivid example to the one thing.
Perfect. Chuck, for the sake of time, what is one question that I should have asked you but haven't, or any comment that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think because you're constrained by time, there's so many things we could have covered, but of course, time is limited. One thing that I wish you could ask me is about ethics, ethics of publishing. Because I served as the president of AIB for 1.5 years. I'm the immediate past president also for 1.5 years. I can see the in and out of the academy, inside story, outside story, okay? So that's why I can share with you. A lot of people are very short-minded. They try to crank up papers in order to get published, get citations. Sometimes they do not choose the means. They sometimes even copy other people's paper, get people's ideas without giving credit, or even bad plagiarism. When I was a president, I wrote in the AIB list that I even had to disclose one name to shame one colleague by name, because it's a serial mistake of plagiarism. So one thing that you could ask is about ethics of publishing. One thing, this is something right to do. Respect other people's work. Don't steal other people's credit. Just be honest, okay? Don't be short-sighted, opportunistic. This is one thing, because it's the right thing to do. Second, people know, especially for us who are at a high level, it's a small circle. Maybe outside people respect you as a scholar. Oh, a lot of citation, famous. But we know we are co-authors. We know that actually some of the ideas you stole from your doctoral students, or from when someone you attend a presentation of other people, you steal it and publish quickly. We know that. And we know that we are decision makers. You'll be blacklisted. Sorry. Although it's not public information, but we know that. So in very determined, very important position, you will not be considered. Because we cannot let the whole organization be led by a bad apple, not an ethical organization. That's why in AIB, we have this mission value statement. We are whatever, we talk about ethics, core of ethics. We know that if an organization is not ethical, in the long term, it must perish. So that's why we have to choose good, responsible leaders, ethical leaders, not only very sharp-minded, very productive, but also very balanced to cheer, to lead the organization so that most people benefit. Instead of some people with very good mind, just have high citations. It must be ethical, well-balanced. So the second point is that not just it's right to do, is that actually for your benefit long-term. Otherwise, you think, how come that I'm so high as a president? Never am I considered as a president candidate of being president of AIB or VP of AIB. You say you don't know why. I tell you why, because something you have done in the past, people know that already. It's a small circle. You better behave. We can remember. So ethics is very important as a scholar. It's something that I could have added as a question.
This was very helpful. This was very valuable. I mean, to hear it from you about reputation, how organizational memory is basically lingering on, and what to do, what not to do, especially if you're a junior faculty, if you're a PhD student, you know, they need to start the right way.
That's right.
And
Don't be
they-
opportunistic. Do the hard work, teamwork with good colleagues. Hard work will pay. Okay, and then start building the reputation. Don't just talk. Show the actions. Don't just think about getting yourself promoted. Try to help other colleagues. People will know. At a high level, EQ is more important than IQ. I tell you, everywhere, whether it's in the business, government, academic, EQ is more important than IQ.
I learned a lot. I'm sure the audience will agree with me. Thank you so much, Chuck.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity. Hopefully, my sharing someone will watch that, so will be helpful to especially the young junior scholars.
It will be.